Hi, I'm Kathy Rushing, host of the podcast Committed, the Entrepreneur Marriage. If your middle name is Restless and you identify with words like innovator, dreamer, changemaker, creative, independent, or you are married to an entrepreneur, or heaven help you, you're both entrepreneurs, this podcast is for you. The entrepreneurial journey can be a little wild at times, like uncharted territory. Join me as I talk with others who are at various stages of the entrepreneur process. We'll explore the wisdom and insights they have gained while navigating the ups and downs of the entrepreneur journey. You'll discover that there are many couples who have found ways to thrive in both their marriage and business. 15 years into starting and scaling Alzcare, the assisted living company that Mark started in 1997, he was burned out. It began to take a toll on our marriage as neither of us had much left in the tank. A friend told Mark about C12. It's a Christian peer board that meets once a month. And this group of men, there are women on many of the boards, but this happened to be all men, became the antidote for the loneliness and burnout he was feeling. After the very first meeting that Mark attended, I felt like I'd gotten my husband back for the first time in a very long time. Several interviews in the queue are people we met through that board. And to each of you, I want you to know how grateful I am for the life-giving friendship you provided just in time. And now you get to meet some of them. Brad and Jooyoung Voeller were interviewed in episode 3, way back. They were brave enough to be one of my first guests. Today, I'm talking with Trevor and Catie Bird. In 2016, they moved from Texas to Durango, Colorado, a place they honestly had never heard of. And they became co-owners of the Harley-Davidson dealership. Listen for the way they made this decision as a couple, how they are teaching their young children about business, what teamwork looks like currently, and how they keep their marriage growing. So I'm joined today by Trevor and Catie Bird. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
How are you?
Doing great.
Doing really good. Thanks for asking.
Good. Well, give us, we're going to get a little bit of get to know you time. So tell us where you guys live currently.
We currently live in Durango, Colorado.
We're in the same state.
Yeah.
And we both came from New Braunfels. So there you go.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you guys been married?
We've been married for 12 blissful years.
Every second of it. Yes. Yeah.
I love it. Blissful, perfect.
Last November, we got to celebrate our 12-year wedding anniversary. And it was a very, very neat, very magical anniversary that we got to celebrate. So yeah, 12 years.
Cool. What did y'all do to celebrate?
We were able to have Trevor's dad came up to help us with the kids. And Trevor and I went to the Broadmoor Hotel Resort up in Colorado Springs. And it was just so beautiful and just so romantic. And it was a great weekend getaway.
Horseback riding, hiking, all sorts of great activities, awesome food, and just a really neat place, without a doubt.
Yeah, we went there for an anniversary a couple years ago in January. So it was off season. The rates were much lower, but half the hotel was also closed. They were doing some renovation, but it is the most amazing historical, and the art that's there. Oh my goodness.
Oh yes.
It's
yes.
just amazing.
The building and the history and all the things that make up the Broadmoor is just all so interesting and beautiful. And yes, we had a really great time. It was really nice.
Yeah. Did y'all go to the zoo?
We did not go to the zoo. No, it was pretty cold, and I don't even know if they were open. They still had some things closed because of the pandemic and stuff.
Restrictions going on, so not everything was fully open. But I was telling Catie, it'd be awesome to take all of our team to the Broadmoor. Just that level of personalized customer service, where they just make you feel like the most important person on that entire piece of property. And, that whole experience, it was great, and definitely something we would love to share with our whole team, and like take everybody up there and let them experience that for a couple of days and kind of see what best in class really was.
Yeah, they really are. They are one of the top. I have a brother-in-law that's in the hotel industry for his whole career, and that is their benchmark,
Yeah,
so how fun.
It was great.
And you guys have a couple of kids, but I've lost track of how old they are.
Yes, we have 2 children. Our oldest is Millie Grace. She is 10, and our son Reese is 8.
Okay, yeah. Very good. And so what are your current job descriptions?
Well, so about 3.5 years ago, we purchased the Durango Harley-Davidson dealership here in Durango, Colorado. And our current job descriptions, Catie oversees our marketing and our retail side of all the different merchandise and stuff that we sell on the retail side of the shop. And then I'm the acting general manager for the dealership. So the motorcycle sales, F&I, accounting, service, and parts kind of falls under my umbrella. And then marketing, PR, and merchandise and all that, Catie helps lead and oversee.
Okay, great. We're going to get into much more of this story in a minute, but awesome. Thank you. I want to do a couple of fun get to know you exercises.
Okay.
If your marriage was a team sport, what would it be?
Well, I would think maybe I'd have to say baseball.
Sure.
Maybe just because I think in the game of baseball,
and you don't have to have the same.
Well, I think in the game of baseball, we've been throwing a few curveballs in life,
no doubt,
and
we've hit
made it through
slams.
those. Yeah. And we've hit some things way out in the left field, you just don't know what's
struck out too. There's been plenty of balls. I think, I'm going to go with baseball too. I like that.
Yeah, but through all of that, we still finished the game and still work together as a team. So I'd say
awesome.
baseball, which is my favorite sport anyway. So it works.
Okay, very good. What is the other's superpower?
What do you think, Trevor?
Catie's love for Christ is really her superpower. Her desire to always be growing in her faith, to be sharing her faith with other people. When her and I met, that was a big part of my life that it wasn't there. It didn't really exist. And, through our journey, and I know we'll get into this later, but, Catie was a big part of, as an adult, bringing Christ back into our life. And then together, we've made sure that he stayed the center of our family and our marriage. But, her love maybe would be more broad, like just general. Catie is she's got an incredible way of loving people, and her love for Christ is really the superpower that stands out to me.
Oh, that's really sweet. I don't know. Now I feel like I gotta change mine now. Let's see. Trevor's superpower, to me, I really think it's his ability to connect with people. He, being in business with him, and even before we worked together, I've always admired how he can, just walk up to a stranger and strike up a conversation and connect to anyone just by means of small talk and just, starting conversations. And I think that's why he's done so well in business, is because he's got a great ability to listen and also be heard, but really connect with others. And I've learned so much from him, because that's not an easy thing for me to do at all. And so he's I think for him and his not only career, but just in his everyday life, he's able to really connect with people and just find a way to see what the other needs, wants, and kind of connect and go from there. And so I admire that about him a lot.
So would you say y'all are more similar or opposites?
I think we're total opposites. I think we're total opposites.
Okay.
Well, wouldn't you agree? I mean,
we're very different. Yeah.
Yeah. We're definitely different.
Yeah.
With similarities.
Okay. Well, that'll be fun to unpack because that's that keeps it exciting, right? And always something to learn. Okay. I have a series of rapid fire questions. And Catie, I actually pulled this from your Facebook post, something you had reposted. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay.
So this has to do with your relationship. Who was interested first?
I think maybe me. Would you say me?
She took the initiative to kind of like really spark up the conversation, but I still remember the very first time I ever saw her get out of that red Mustang in the parking lot of Alamo City Harley-Davidson. And, and I was in a season of life where I really had gotten out of a really bad engagement and was not looking for anything, but, Catie definitely caught my eye and I said, wow, there's something special about that girl. But
I think it was me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the attraction was there for both of us, but I think I initiated it.
Yep.
Go girl. Who's the most sensitive?
Trevor.
Sure. I'll take that.
Trevor. Okay. Who has the worst temper?
Maybe me. We both kind of have a temper.
My red line is way out there. I've got a lot more.
His fuse is longer than mine, so I snap before he does.
Once it cracks, the temper, it's bad. But Catie, maybe on a shorter time level.
Yes, I'm less patient.
Okay. Who's the loudest?
Me, probably.
Catie.
She says in a very soft voice. Who's the funniest?
Catie.
I don't know. We're
our son.
Our son. Trevor and I really aren't that funny, but our kids are really funny.
It's good to have funny kids.
Yes, definitely.
You got to laugh in life, right? Who is the more sociable?
Me. Yeah, I'm definitely more social.
Yeah, and it's it's weird because like at work, I'm probably very much more social when it's with team members, clients, stakeholders. But when I get done working 12, 14-hour day, I'm done. And but Catie definitely has a much bigger desire to be out there in the community and making friends, and she's definitely more social when it comes to that.
That's true.
Okay. Who's the most stubborn?
Trevor.
What?
It's true.
Okay, I'll take that too.
Okay. Who wakes up first?
I do.
Trevor.
Who stays up late?
Catie.
Me.
Catie. Who's the better driver?
Me.
Catie. Except on a motorcycle. I can operate a motorcycle better than her, but when it comes to a car, Katie's definitely a better driver.
I'll give you that, but yeah, no, he's a terrible driver. Terrible driver.
Oh gosh. That's not the answer I was looking for on a motorcycle. And who's the better cook?
Me. I'm the only one that cooks.
That's not true.
Well, yeah. He does the grill. He works the grill. So when we grill stuff, he's in charge.
No, Katie's the better cook for sure.
Okay.
Which isn't saying much. So
yeah. For years, I thought Mark wanted to grill, but it was never really a passion of his. And then we got a big green egg. And because it involved fire, suddenly he loved grilling. And so he became the grill master. Yeah, very good. All right. Well, great. We'll transition now into your story. And I want to hear a little bit more about how you met. So cute little blonde getting out of a red car. Is that how you met?
That is how we met. Back, what was it, like 15,
it was like in
ago?
2004.
2004. I was running a handful of Harley-Davidson dealerships in the San Antonio market. And we also were licensed boxing promoters with the state of Texas. And we were throwing these pretty significant, mass gathering concerts, big concerts and festivals and outdoor events. And we would hire marketing teams.
Trevor?
Yes.
Trevor, I'm sorry. You said licensed what? It kind of garbled for a minute.
Boxing promoter. So we were throwing
okay.
sanctioned boxing and mixed martial arts events with the Texas
Oh,
Boxing
okay.
Commission. But we would have marketing teams that would go out and help promote our events in the communities. And that's how we met Katie. Through one of her friends, they got hired to be one of our marketing teams and go out there and promote one of our events. And so we met initially in the parking lot of Alamo City Harley-Davidson, and just love at first sight.
Sounds like it. So, how long before you got married, and how did you guys know that this was your forever person?
We dated for about 5 years before we got married, 5 to 6 years. I would have married him way sooner, but Trevor, and I'm thankful for this. Like, there's an age difference between us. There's 7 years. So when we met, I was still in college, and Trevor was already had graduated, was working for Harley and whatnot, and I fell for him super super fast, and I would have married him, a year after we had started dating, but he was really concerned about me. He wanted me to make sure that I finished and got my degree and got my career started and did those important things, that just to kind of, figure out who I am as an individual before we got married. And I'm so thankful for that now, that we waited.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess it was about 5 years before we got married. And I knew Trevor was the one because honestly, from that first night we met, because we ended up sitting down out on the patio, and it was late at night, but we just started talking, and I couldn't even remember what all we talked about, but what I remember was just having this instant connection with him, just feeling totally at ease and that I could be myself. And I felt that he was really open and shared things with me, and he was just a really deep soul. And I hadn't met a man like that, in my whole life. And, I was used to fraternity boys who just wanted to go out and get drunk all the time, so it was really nice change of pace to actually have an adult conversation with this man who, was just so smart and intelligent. And so from the day I met him, I knew that there was something different about him. So it wasn't long after that I realized I wanted to marry him. So that's how I knew. Mm-hmm.
So you knew pretty early on. How about you, Trevor?
So I had come out of a season of life where I had been in some pretty tough relationships and dealing with a lot of betrayal and just hard stuff. And I was really not looking to fall in love, but there was something about Katie that was different. The age thing was definitely like, I'm like, you're young, you do need to figure out kind of what you want to do in life. And thank God that she was persistent and she never gave up on me. And she loved me even when we were dating in a way that I had never experienced. It was just such a pure, I said earlier, her superpower is really the way that she loves. And so getting to experience that firsthand. And I remember when I started falling in love with her, I got scared to death and even called, I said, we can't do this anymore. Cause I was really starting to fall for her. And so I called things off and she was like, you know what? I'm not going to keep going back and forth. If you're not interested, I'm going to move on with my life. Well, what does that do to the guy? Right now, all of a sudden it's like, and she did, she moved on. And I realized, like within 24 hours, I was sitting there going, what are you doing? Like, really, like, what are you doing? Am I going to go back out to the, bar scene in San Antonio and find a woman as pure and as loving and just that makes me feel so much joy that I felt with Katie? I had promised her for her 21st birthday to take her to Las Vegas. She had never been before. And so I called, groveling, hey, we'll get, these 2 separate rooms, like blah, 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 but please let me still take you to Vegas for your 21st birthday. And she set some really clear expectations. Like,
and in my mind, I was also thinking, man, a free trip to Vegas?
And
I'll go.
Her girlfriends are going after it too. And,
Yeah.
But it was really, when we were in Vegas, I like just the fact that she agreed to come up there was a big deal. And I could not take my eyes off of her. And there's a lot of shiny distractions in Vegas. And I just knew, I was like, man, I'm like, you don't screw this up. This girl loves you. She's so incredible. And, that trip in Vegas, like that was where I made up my mind that I'm going to marry her one day. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So in the beginning, Trevor, you said you were already working with Harley-Davidson in San Antonio. Is that where your career started?
That's correct.
Harley-Davidson?
No, when I was in college, the family that owned the Harley-Davidson franchise in San Antonio, the son, we were best friends, and his father had opened a bar on the Riverwalk called Houston Street Ale House. And the summer between my freshman and sophomore year at TCU, I came back home to do summer school. And my buddy's like, hey, we need some help, like bar backs and stuff like that, if you want a summer job. So I was, literally 18, 19 years old, mopping the floors, cleaning the restrooms, washing glasses and dishes. And that was when I first started working for that family. While we were in college, the son and I started a couple motorsports marketing companies together. We formed the first LLC I'd ever formed was with him, and got out of college and thought I'd do the real world thing and did software development consulting for a couple of years and had a wildly successful career right out of college with that. But in 2002, when the dot-com bubble burst, I decided to take a chance and I moved from Dallas, Texas, where I was living, back to San Antonio. And it was really just supposed to be a temporary thing while I was looking again for another real job. I was helping that family out again. But in 2002, Harley-Davidson was just booming. 2003 was the 100th anniversary of the brand. They could do no wrong. I mean, the demand was way outpacing the supply. And so it was really neat. I got to grow with that company when I started in November of 2001 is when I started with that family. And we grew from a $12 million company to over a $60 million company from 2001 to 2007. So, being in my 20s and being kind of helping lead this incredible growth, and from one location to 4 locations and from 20 something employees to over 100 employees, it was just an incredible experience. But yeah, this November will be 20 years that I've worked with the Harley-Davidson brand and the Harley-Davidson dealer network.
Wow. I didn't realize it had been that long. And so for you, Catie, you graduated college.
Mm-hmm.
And where did your career begin?
The day after I graduated college, I started working in the broadcasting department for the San Antonio Spurs. So I got a really awesome job.
Spurs, go.
Exactly. Yes. Go Spurs, go. Feel really blessed for the opportunity to work with the Spurs organization right out of college. So I worked in broadcasting. I was like a sales assistant, basically, and I helped associate, I guess is the word they used. But I got to help our sales managers in selling corporate sponsorships. So like anytime you go to a basketball game and all the in-arena signage and all the TV and radio spots during the game, that's what we sold and that's what we did. And it was an amazing experience for me to work in that organization because, well, one, it's just cool. I mean, there's a lot of perks that come with getting to work for the Spurs. But more than that, I had some amazing bosses, some leaders that really, really cared about their people. And, one of the things that my VP told me one time, I went to interview for another position within the company. This is like a year or so later. And I knew that I maybe wasn't quite ready for it, but I wanted to go for it anyway. And he interviewed me and he went through the whole process with me. And at the end, he said, Catie, he said, I really value you and I value your work here. And he said, but I don't want to set you up to see you fail. And so he was able to let me down in a way that lifted me up at the same time, which is something I've carried with me throughout the rest of my career. And that's just one small snippet of what it was like to work for that organization. They were really nurturing and, really a lot of the leadership values that Trevor and I use today within our businesses have come from the model of my time at the Spurs and how they approached leadership. So working for the Spurs was by far my biggest learning experience in the workforce. And then I did a small stint working at the scooter store in New Braunfels. I don't think it was even a full year. And then we got pregnant with our daughter, and I stayed home from then on. So for about
Okay.
7 years, I stayed home. And then when we moved here to Durango, Trevor and I partnered up, and now I work for
Yeah.
Harley-Davidson. Yeah.
Okay. So, Trevor, you said you had started you and your friend started an LLC,
Mm-hmm.
kind of an entrepreneurial thing. Did you consider yourself an entrepreneur at that point?
Oh
Or did
yeah.
you even label it that?
Well, I mean, I didn't have a label for it back then, but I mean, from being in sixth grade in middle school and getting busted for hustling cinnamon toothpicks that I would make at home, and 5 cents for one toothpick or five for 25 cents, and and one thing I'm really grateful for is my parents always made me work. I mean, I remember in the summers when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, working at Rockin' R River rides every summer, and being resentful, like all my friends out there having fun and I'm here parking cars and
Mhm.
stacking inner tubes. But
And
I'm
it's
just so
hot in
grateful.
Texas in the
Yeah.
summer. Yeah.
But it helped me appreciate what it takes to make a buck, what good work ethic is. But I was always looking for that little side hustle and ways to, and it wasn't really about the money. It was just, I always had fun putting deals together and, you know, doing entrepreneurial activities before I even knew what that really was, that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we had dinner. It has been several years ago. And
Mhm.
so a lot of this story I'm forgetting, but I do remember, Catie, that at that time, you had a business. Was it men's clothing?
Oh, yes. Yes. After being a stay-at-home mom for a few years, I was starting to get the itch to find some purpose outside of the home, and I know a lot of moms out there feel that way, and I've been through the same thing. And my best friend Rachel had just joined this menswear company called J. Hilburn, based out of
That's
Dallas.
right.
Yes, and that sells custom men's clothing. And I saw she came over to the house and measured Trevor for some custom clothes, and I just thought it was the neatest thing to see. And I love fashion, so I was like, man, you know what, Rachel, I can do this too. Let's do it together. So I started my J. Hilburn business. So yes, basically I would go meet clients in their home or office, and we would take their measurements, and I have these big swatch books, and gentlemen could pick out, design their own wardrobe, basically tailored to fit them. And it was a really fun chapter,
It
to do
was
that.
great watching Katie in that season of life. And I would go back to the Harley dealership and tell my sales guys, I was like, if y'all hustled as hard as my wife does, you would be selling 3 or 4 times more motorcycles than you are right now, because she went through my entire contact list and, hey, I want to know every CPA, attorney, this, that, everyone that you've ever worked with. And and not just me, like she did that with every one of her contacts, and created this in a very short period of time, this incredible kind of referral network. And it was just so fun to see her, because she was in the zone. She loves fashion, she loves making people happy and feel confident, and she loves feeling independent. And that job kind of took all of those elements and put them under one umbrella, and she just did so great with it. It was really really fun to be able to sit on the sidelines and kind of watch her run with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And at that point, Trevor, were you the GM in New Braunfels?
I
Or
was.
what was your
So
role?
yeah, I was a general manager and VP for the Sacker family. And in 2008, we sold two of the four locations, the Alamo City Harley Davidson main store and t-shirt store down on the San Antonio Riverwalk. And when '08 happened, I had never sold a motorcycle. Like when I got involved with those guys in November of 2001, it was really a business development, which I love, putting together business plans, casting the vision, getting people's buy-in, creating org charts, like that. I thrive in that visionary role. But I still tell my staff this: I'm not a good general manager. But in '08, when the collapse happened, I remember the family came to me and said, "You need to go fire the GM in Green Harley Davidson in New Braunfels, Texas. And if you still want to have a job, you can be the new GM, but that's the only way we can still have a job for you. And I was like, man, I've never even sold a motorcycle. Like, what am I going to do? And so it was a really intimidating transition for me, but it's one that I'm so grateful for, because in '08, when I moved into that GM role, and then within about a year or two, I was overseeing both the New Braunfels and the Bernie dealership, which still, even at that time, by 2009, 2010, was $40+ million in top line revenue, and we had close to 100 employees, 40 to 50 per store, and
Wow.
so it was a big job, and one store is a big job. Having two stores an hour apart, it was challenging, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. And were you part of C12 at that, or let me ask it a different way. At what point did you join C12? You and Mark met through C12 quite a few years ago.
So I think it was around 2012 or 13. And I was going through a pretty radical transformation in my life, and we could go down an entire rabbit hole about that. But I had decided, our daughter was 2 years old and our son was newborn, and I had decided, that I was powerless over alcohol. It was such a miracle that I never got in trouble. No DWIs, never got in trouble with the law. But my health and my relationships were both collapsing, and I just had really struggled with alcohol and tried quitting on my own, and never just I'd get 2-3 months under my belt and then something would happen. And so anyway, it was this really incredible crossroads where I had fallen on my knees in the shower on a Monday morning and just started crying and just said, God, I can't do this anymore. I don't know how to fix this. I'm so tired of fighting this. Will you please take this from me? And a few hours later, I attended, and it was one of the most humbling, and at the time it felt pretty humiliating experiences. But I went into my first AA meeting, and being in small town New Braunfels, of course, half the room in there. And but it was during that time where I just said, God, I need your help. Like, take this from me. That at our church, I attended my first Acts retreat with Saints Peter and Paul. I met Mike Sherrow, who was leading the C12 group back then, joined the C12 group, and then was immediately surrounded by this bond of brothers, of Christian owners. And my first C12 meeting, this guy, Barney Randalls, said, you need to quit your job. I'm like, what? He's like, seriously, you need to quit. You need to go and tell them you're quitting today. And I just thought, who are these people? Like, what does he think? Why does he think he has the right to tell me I should quit my job? And, went into this natural kind of defensive posture, but didn't realize it was really out of love, that the way they were talking to me. And so that was a long answer to your question, but yeah, it was about 2012, 2013 when we really started to get involved in C12 and look at our business from a perspective that these are God's businesses, and we're just lucky enough to be a steward. And the whole purpose of it is to share his love and just love on your team, love on your customers, run a good, profitable business. And so that's what we did.
So back up just a little bit, because now I'm curious. So the guy that said you should quit your job, why was he saying that? Talking about at the Harley-Davidson?
Yeah.
That's where you were working, right?
That was where I was working. And I think out of respect for that whole situation, it was just, I guess the short answer is he knew I wasn't happy. He knew I had kind of reached a point where there's a saying, unequally yoked. And we were definitely, at that time I had become a partner in the businesses. In 2013, I actually became a minority equity partner in both dealerships. And I think it's fair. There's no right, wrong, or, judgment, but we were just very equally unyoked as partners. And so they just, I think they wanted to challenge me. Yep.
So different values in the company versus your own values. Okay. That makes sense. And I respect that. We may not need to go any deeper.
Yes, ma'am.
I am so fascinated by this whole Harley because listeners, you cannot see Trevor and Catie, but they are the most all-American looking couple. I don't know if either of you have tattoos, but they're not visible.
No tattoos.
No tattoos. We'd always disappoint people that neither one of us.
No crazy piercings or anything. No, we're your average Joes.
Yeah. So, once upon a time, Harley was this bad boy image, and Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper came out on their custom Harleys in Easy Rider. But that image has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And I remember when our oldest son, Jeremy, was in 5th grade, first day of school, he comes home and he is so excited. Like, he's not usually excited about school. But he came home and told us that it was a real interesting teacher situation. It was a husband and wife that co-taught. And they both owned Harleys, and that was their fun time. They would go ride most weekends. And so he just thought that was so cool. My teachers ride Harleys. And so the image has really changed. And I would love to hear a little bit about how you have seen the culture change and what part you have played in that, do you think?
Without a doubt. So, in 2001, I had graduated from TC with a marketing degree in 1999. I had been in the software development and the corporate scene for a couple years. And I'd never ridden a motorcycle. I was 19. I mean, it wouldn't even, the word motorcycle never even came up in my house as a kid. It just, dad's a small town family practice doctor, like not even an option, like not even something to give consideration to. When I was 19 and I rode my first motorcycle, it just went, oh my gosh, this freedom and adventure and independence that these people talk about. Like, even just on my first little lap around a parking lot, I was like, I want to know more about this. But what attracted me even more than the experience was the people. And I remember sitting at Alamo City Harley-Davidson, and the former mayor, Howard Peak, and the county judge, Nelson Wolf, and the Comal County Sheriff at the time, Bob Holder, they were all hanging out with 3 or 4 banditos, which are part of a 1%er outlaw motorcycle club, right? As soon as they step out of that parking lot, those guys are kind of like sworn enemies to each other, law enforcement and judges and outlaw motorcycle guys, right? But inside that dealership, it was all about the motorcycle and that shared experience. And I just was like looking at it, and I can still visually see that moment going, how amazing is this that, and it's more than just a motorcycle. It's the brand, it's the lifestyle, but that this Harley-Davidson motorcycle, it doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a billion-dollar company or if you're the janitor. It doesn't matter if you're the local sheriff or judge or if you're an outlaw motorcycle guy. It was just like the great equalizer. Everybody was treated with respect. Everybody was treated, as long as you're being cool and being respectful, it was shown back to the other people. And so it's just, before Facebook, before Twitter, it was this incredible social network of people from all different backgrounds and walks of life, and just so diverse, with this common love of freedom, adventure, and independence, which that Harley-Davidson motorcycle represents.
And I'd like to add to that, me myself, I didn't grow up in a motorcycle family. I was actually, my mother forbid me and my little sister, from ever riding a motorcycle, which it's funny now. It's like the running joke, because my sister also married a Harley guy who runs a dealership up north. So, so we're both married to motorcycle guys. I know it's all in the family now, but what I love about the motorcycle community is, and I've come to learn this, is because most people do look at motorcyclists and and think that, oh, they're the big bad bikers, because they wear black and they have tattoos or long beards or this or that. And first lesson I learned was, you just cannot judge a book by its cover, because the people that ride motorcycles and Harley Davidsons, they are some of the most loving, most charitable, giving souls I have ever met in my entire life. And I'm more scared of the normal people walking down the street, downtown Durango than I am with these big bad bikers that walk in and out of our shop every day. And it's true. It's true because they're also really big protectors. And I know that I feel extremely safe with my children running around in that shop all the time. They're really not all that big, bad, and scary,
Some of them.
Some of them can be, but it's not the majority. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome perspective. Yeah. Do you ride, Catie?
I do. Yes. I have my license. I got my license about, I guess it's almost 2 years now, but I don't have my own bike yet, and I'm not on the road yet.
She does have her own motorcycle. She has a really, really awesome dirt bike.
I have a dirt bike. That's not the same as a road bike. But anyway, Trevor's just a little nervous about me riding because I'm a good rider. He's just worried about other people. So we're getting him to loosen up that fear a little bit so that because I enjoy it. It's fun. It was I've always ridden on the back with Trevor, and that's fun too. And I enjoy getting to do that with him. But there's definitely something extremely empowering about being able to handle a big machine like that, and it definitely is a freedom feeling for sure. And it makes it a little harder to get on the back now with Trevor just because I know that I can do it. So yeah, I'm gonna get there.
Yeah, it's a big machine. Mm-hmm.
It is, but it's not as intimidating as it seems. It's really fun.
Okay, awesome. And you guys are up there with that $1 Million Highway. I have driven that before and have seen many groups of motorcycles and just thought, holy cow, what happens if I don't know, I guess you can get a blowout on a motorcycle, and that is just a drop off there. But beautiful scenery.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful scenery.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. So you moved from New Braunfels to Durango, and I really want to hear your story about how that came about and that process of you all becoming co-owners, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're listed on your website anyway as co-owners.
Definitely.
Tell us more about that. How did that opportunity come up, and how did you process that as a couple?
A lot of prayer, a lot of prayer, and the going out into the deep kind of approach to it. By 2016, I was just kind of at a point where something needed to change from our current situation, and I kept trying to see if we could have that change happen there in Texas. But through all of that, Harley-Davidson Motor Company had approached me and said, "Look, we want dealers like you, and because you have this equity in these shops, maybe we can go out and look at finding," kind of gave me some parameters. And Catie and I, we had never heard this, had never even
True
heard
story
of Durango, Colorado.
No idea where Durango was. Never heard of it.
Grew up going to Steamboat
idea.
Springs, Colorado my entire life.
Complete opposite side of Colorado. Yeah.
But had never been to Durango. And a good friend.
Durango's in the very, very southwest corner for those that may not be up on your geography.
Right there in the four corners where New Mexico, Utah, Arizona, and Colorado all connect. And so I got a friend, phone call from a good friend, and he said, "Hey, this is kind of really confidential, but the dealership in Durango is listed for sale, and I think it would be a great fit." And so December 6th of 2016, Catie and I book our first flight to Durango, and we're staying at the Strader Hotel, which is this historic, just really neat hotel right downtown Main Street. And we didn't realize that it was called Noel Night, which only happens one night a year, but it's where all of the merchants, they all put up their displays outside on Main Street, and there's Santa Claus on a stagecoach,
Christmas lights,
riding up and down, and there's a nice little snow, and it's just
it definitely set the scene. Yeah, it was a magical evening in Durango.
And we went and met with the owners, and it was really interesting because it was the first time we met with the current owners, and they were getting into their early 70s and run a really successful business, and they were just looking to retire. Right? They had a good business, a great foundation that they had created, but they wanted to retire. And I just remember the wife, we met top secret. We met at the dealership that night. And the wife said, as we were walking out, she said, I don't know what God has planned for you too, but I'm definitely going to be praying that whatever it is, he just helps you find it, with clarity and understanding. And so,
So kind.
She told me, she's like, Catie, she's like, I really feel like, I feel like this is it. She felt like we were the people they were looking for to take over their shop. And I thought that was super sweet. But in the back of my head, like Trevor and I had kind of already made the decision, like, oh, this dealership's too small for us. Like we're used to, selling hundreds and hundreds of bikes. And
yeah, we were selling 1,600 bikes a year between the two shops in Texas. This shop was not even doing 150 bikes in a full year. So it was, from a size perspective, it did make sense.
It did make sense. And so we had kind of come on this trip with the kind of just thinking like, oh, this will just be a great getaway for the two of us. We'll get to go and spend the weekend in Durango and we'll go check out this shop, okay, but it's not for us. Right. So when she said that to me, I was just like, wow, it's like, that's a pretty powerful statement. Right. And I'm going to jump in from now at this point. But so Trevor and I, we leave the dealership, we get in the car and we go off to dinner. And we go and we sit in this awesome little restaurant here in downtown Durango called the Orr House. If you ever come to visit, you need to go there. Best steak you'll ever have. Anyway, we were sitting at the Orr House having dinner, and I've got my glass of wine, and we're just enjoying the evening. And Trevor looks at me and he says, Catie, I really feel like this is where God's calling us. I just have a feeling. I think God is calling us here. And I immediately just burst into tears. And I was like, wait, you're kidding, right? Like, no, we already said this was not where we're supposed to be. This wasn't, right for us. Like, then my mind just starts tumbling, like, so you want to take me out of Texas? I never thought I would leave Texas, and my family's in Texas. What's happening? I just panic mode, right? Fast forward, we decided that we would pray about it. We would pray about it, and we don't have to decide right now. Let's pray about it and see what comes of it. So fast forward a couple
weeks. Take a deep
breath. Exactly. Actually, I don't know if it was a full few weeks. I think it may have been just like 1 week. We get back and I had a pretty huge God moment that made me instantly change my mind. God often talks to me through music. And there are actually a lot of other signs that led up to this point, but we don't have enough time for all of that. But
we might have to do another episode.
Yes, I mean it's a really amazing story. But the biggest point for me was I was sitting in my Tahoe, my car. I just taken the kids to their Mother's Day Out program, and I was driving home, and I had my playlist on shuffle in my car, and that Hillsong United song, "Oceans," came on, and that's like a 10-minute song. So I don't think I'd ever listened to the whole thing before, but it just came on, and I'm sitting alone in my car and I'm listening to the words, and the song is so beautiful. And it's talking about, Spirit, lead me where my feet could never wander, take me deeper than I could have, than I could ever go. I trust that you're leading me where I should be, kind of thing. And of course, now I can't think of all the lyrics on my top of my head, but it's just the most beautiful song about trusting in God and where he's leading you, keeping your eyes above the waves, which it's referencing my favorite Bible story, where Peter's walking on the water towards Jesus and he falls and all he says is, Jesus, help me. And he does. And anyway, it was just, I get chills talking about it. But then I'm sitting there and I'm just crying in my car, and I'm crying. And because I'm just thinking like, wow, God is like being so clear to me right now. Like, I just need to let it go. He is the one in control. He's obviously wants us to go to Durango. And so from that moment on, I never questioned it. And Trevor came home from work and I said, Trevor, we got to go to Durango. That's where we got to go.
And then I had changed my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's getting way too real. I mean, we had to go out there and for the real estate transaction, raise a lot of money. We don't have any partners, but we definitely have investors. And it started, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is too much. And Catie was like, no, we're not changing course. And so like God often speaks to me through my wife. So it just, I knew like, all right, there is no turning back, and we're going to have faith. And there's so much more. Like the LLC that owns Durango Harley-Davidson is Ash Motorsports. It was on Ash Wednesday. Catie had come home and she had the ashes on her forehead. We both go to the Catholic Church, and we had to come up with a name that day for the LLC. Like we'd run out of time. And so we were thinking with C12 and like, this being a company that we want to, and I've got our purpose and vision statements I can share with you, but we wanted to honor God through this company. And so for us, the ash was always serving him, with him being Christ. And so it's been really neat to watch the more that we just gave God back his company and said, just work through us. And, the last 3.5 years, it has been just amazing. The stories and the experiences and the blessings and the success of the business. I mean, it's been an incredible journey.
Oh my gosh, that is a wonderful story. What's a high and what's a low point since you've taken over the dealership?
Let's see. Well, for myself, I would say the high for me is the opportunity to get to work side by side with Trevor. We weren't sure how that was going to go at first, but we actually complement each other really well in the workplace, and very respectful of each other's roles and lift each other up that way. So I'd say that's been the biggest high for me, is that the opportunity to work next to him and learn so much from him through all of it. The low, I think, would definitely be, it's been difficult being far away from my family and all of our friends back home in Texas. We really created a really amazing community of friends in New Braunfels, and my family were all super close. I've never lived more than like 2.5 hours away from my mom and dad. So, going from having a huge network of family and friends to lean on to not knowing anybody, that was definitely really hard. And it's taken, let's see, we've been living here now for almost 4 years. And I'd say it's taken about 4 years to really feel like Durango's home, just because we had such deep roots in Texas, and still do. Those roots are always there. Yeah.
Good. You've been able to stay connected.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What about for you, Trevor?
I would definitely echo Catie. It wasn't really part of the original plan that she would be working full time in the dealership. Like we knew, like we're going into this as co-owners, but being there full time was not part of the original business plan. And after about 6 months, I just realized like I was suffocating. Like I just couldn't. I was working 14, 16 hours a day, and she said, I'm gonna come alongside you and really roll up my sleeves and dive into the day-to-day stuff. And it could have gone probably one of two ways. And we've been really, really blessed. Now, of course, we still have our days, but it's just been so neat to watch her grow and her confidence as a leader and everything. And then also just getting to serve our team and our customers with it has been absolutely amazing. The other high would be our second full year in business. We came in out of 600 plus dealers in the country by Harley-Davidson Motor Company's scorecard. We were ranked 7th in the country in 2019. And then, just seeing the growth of our team members and seeing them grow personally and professionally and being a part. I mean, we've almost doubled the revenue in 3 full years of business from where we bought the dealership to where it is today. Like we pretty much have doubled the top line revenue, and it's been, it's just been an awesome journey. And I think the low is I didn't have as tight of a family network and love my mom and dad. I mean, just amazing people, but we weren't as close knit as Catie was with her family. And so, for me, I think the low is I totally respect and appreciate how much she misses her family and misses that closeness. And so just wishing that I could close that gap a little bit where Catie wasn't so far from her family. Having her so far from her family would be kind of my low.
What would you guys say to other couples that are considering going in business together? Because like you said, it could have gone one of two ways. It's not for everybody. What are some of the questions that you guys worked through in coming to that decision even?
I don't know that we really ever talked about it that much.
We
It was
just
kind of like, this is what we're going to do. And
it was survival. It really was. It was like, we've got to make
Okay.
this work, and it's going to take both of us. And
I think any advice I'd give other couples that are thinking about going into business together is making sure that, that they're friends too. You've got your life partner here and you share in the responsibilities of everyday life and raising kids and stuff. But I think having a friendship is really important because that, it creates the trust and the respect. I have the utmost respect for Trevor because of one of his knowledge of the business. He's already been with Harley-Davidson for so many years. So when I joined on, I knew that I definitely am not the expert here. So knowing to take my cues and my leadership from him in order to do well myself. So I think it's important to have that friendship and respect, mutual respect for each other. And also know when you need to leave the office and close the door. Trevor and I, there are definitely days where one of us is not in the best mood and there might be some high level things, drama going on or whatever. And I just know to stay out of his office on those days, So whatever we got to discuss will happen later. We try to really separate work and home as much as we can, except at 3:00 when the kids get out of school and they usually end up coming back to work with me. And then it's a big family affair all the way around, But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything she said. And, having boundaries, I think that's important, that, and it's impossible to keep it from crossing over. But, when you're at home trying to focus on home and the marriage and the kids and that, and not always bringing work home with you, or even bringing your home life to work, and trying to keep those a little bit separate. And there, again, there's no perfect equation for that. But, one thing is, make sure you know each other. Catie and I, we had been through some rough times in our marriage before we moved up here. And we had a few years of really kind of working things out, and really getting to know who we were deep down without all the stuff on the surface. And, having that friendship that Catie mentioned, understanding each other's boundaries, and just even the level of respect. I mean, it blows me away. Catie comes to every one of our meetings. We have a weekly owners meeting, and she comes with an agenda. I'm trying to tell the rest of my managers, I'm like, why can't you? She's the one person that doesn't have to come with an agenda, but she comes prepared and is always really respectful of our time. And we've even got a big note on our 2021 meeting agenda template that says work not home, or something, that our work not personal, to make sure when we're talking about work. And it always happens. I always bring something in about, what about the kids' ski class this weekend? But
and the reason for that is I'm the one that made that rule, because I'm not there full time like Trevor is, 9 to 5 every day. I'm there from about 8 to 2:30. Because when the kids get out of school, that's when we go do all the kids stuff, the soccer practice, ski team, all that stuff. So the hours that I'm in the office are so crucial. So I try to not talk about home stuff unless it's really, something pressing and important. But I need to focus on work while I'm there so that I don't fall behind. And so, and the agenda thing, I'm just a type A person, so I can't help that. But yeah, so he's respectful of that, and he understands that, and he's also a super great helper with the kids and everything outside of work too. And I think that's that's an important thing to say as well. If you're a husband and wife and you're gonna work together, you need to share the responsibilities outside of work too.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was staying at home with my kids, I cooked dinner, I cleaned the kitchen, I took care of those home responsibilities. And Trevor helped, but it was mostly me. But now, we really are a team. So if I cook dinner, he cleans the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
We both share the laundry, and we do all of that. And I can't tell you what that's done. My love language is acts of service. So when he does those things for me, it's just a huge. It's so wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you guys learn to pivot in a lot of different ways. And, some couples, they get very fixed in their roles. Like, you have to do this and I have to do this. And I think it shows some depth and flexibility in your relationship to be able to shift. There was a time when Mark had gone back to school and we literally kind of flipped roles. He would cook dinner. That was a little scary because he really didn't cook a lot at the time. I remember he made something one night and I was like, it's good, honey. It tastes a little salty. Or maybe it was missing salt, one or the other. He was like, yeah, well, I had a Hannah on my hip and I was talking to mom and I was cooking and I was like, I just realized that, as women, I don't know, we just seem to be a little more able to multitask. And, but we did. And I think it gave us both an appreciation of the whole picture of what it takes to run a family. Somebody has to bring in money. Somebody has to do laundry. Somebody has to cook. Somebody has to clean. Somebody has to pick up the kids. But it doesn't have to be the same person all the time. And it really does feel so empowering, doesn't it, to be that team?
Absolutely.
Yeah. When Katie and I were going through marriage, like pre-marriage counseling and stuff, and, I forgot who said it, but somebody said, it's none of this 50-50 stuff. Like you're either 100% and 100% or not at all. And like that really, Katie and I mean, and there's seasons, there's seasons of life where I'm running on empty and I just can barely go anymore and have these challenges. And she's always there to pick me up and lift me up. And then, it flips. And then there's times where she needs me to step it up a little bit more and chip in and help out and support a little bit more. But I've never felt anything less than 100% from her. And I always try to make sure I'm giving her 100% of myself back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was a big kind of aha moment for both of us was hearing that. And I think it was Raylyn that told us that maybe.
Yeah.
Our business coach back home, she, I think she's the one that said that, marriage is not a give and take 50-50, each person has to give 100 and 100. So that's something that we frequently fall back on that statement. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a business coach that talked to you about marriage also?
She kind of covered all the boundaries.
Yeah, we had she came in
that.
under the guise of a business coach, but she was actually a chaplain. But did amazing professional development, personal development. Yep.
So great. When did you guys start working with a coach?
Man, when did I start working with her? Probably in 2006 or 7.
Okay. And what prompted you to do that?
The father that was the owner of the dealerships at the time, there's a lady named Sally who he knew. Sally worked at Picante, the little hot sauce company. And Sally went off and started Sally's Salsa, which was being sold in every HEB across the state of Texas. And Hal, the boss, said, how did you go from working on the line at Picante to now you've got this wildly successful salsa company? And she said, because of my business coach. And the dad looked at his son and I, and he said, you see these two, they need some of that in their lives. They need a little direction. And it's really interesting because when she showed up, she asked these really strange questions like, well, what's your mission statement? What are your core values? What type of legacy do you want to leave? And I'm like, what are you? A totally foreign language. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, our mission is to make money and have fun. Like, that was all that legacy. Like, we're living for the moment. And Raylyn had such a tremendous impact on that pivoting that she just brought this perspective to life of, having a vision and a purpose and a mission and values. And then taking that with what Katie had learned at the San Antonio Spurs of a value-based leadership approach to running the business. And all of those components kind of came in together to really form us to the type of leaders and owners that we are today.
That is really cool. Such great mentors. You mentioned some challenging marriage times, and we don't have to get into specifics, but part of the reason that I started this podcast is, especially in the entrepreneurial world, and you look at what you all left, a lot of security, family, friends, to go to something that though you felt strongly led to do, it was still scary. And you had to put both feet in the same boat if it was going to float, right? So there are challenges. And I just see so many couples that when hard times come, they're just flabbergasted or scared, or they think there's something wrong with them. So I would like to hear a little bit about what are some things that you all have done when you've hit those hard times? What are some things you've done to strengthen your marriage and get through those hard times?
A lot of the big issues that we had in our marriage happened a lot earlier in our marriage, that have all become stepping stones and building blocks into making us stronger, because we're pretty rock solid. We still have our lows, but not like back then. But back then, I think what really helped in a lot of ways was we weren't afraid to go and see a counselor. I warmed up to the idea first, and then Trevor saw how it was helping me, and then he jumped on board. And being able to have someone outside of us, that doesn't know us personally, but can sit there and help mediate a discussion and help us see other ways around, how the other feels. I think that was a huge thing to have for us in our marriage early on. Even now, we still go to a counselor once a month now, just for maintenance, we call it, because there's always things to talk about and work on. Marriage is a commitment, and we made our commitment in front of God, and it was something that we take really seriously. So I'm also extremely thankful because I have a really amazing man here that loves me unconditionally, and he shows me that every single day. And he's never given me 1 ounce of or inkling at all that he wants to give up when things get tough. If anything, he's the rock that keeps us together. So I thank God every day for him. But I don't know, I guess, counseling and being able to communicate, and it's not always easy. We both struggle with communication. That's something we work on a lot, but that's so important.
Yeah. And through that, through counseling, and not just with the marriage counselor, but with other friends, with other, couples that have been doing this longer than we have, and being able to talk to people that have the experience, and kind of like what you're sharing with your listeners of, we've learned so much from couples that are, 5, 10, 15 years out ahead of us, that we've been able to lean on in times of need, and really understanding how to communicate with one another, understanding the triggers, and that it's not always us. Like, I might react to something, and it's not because of Catie, but because it's something in my past that I'm still kind of figuring out. And for her to go, okay, I know I'm not going to take that personal because I know he's still working through that, or vice versa. So just understanding our triggers and how to communicate and all of that has been a big help.
I also think being able to say you're sorry, it seems so simple, but for a lot of people, it's not. It's not easy for me to admit that I'm not perfect. So it's probably, in our relationship, it's probably harder for me to say I'm sorry when we're in the wrong. But that really does go a long way, as being humble and recognizing when, okay, maybe I was a little harsh on you. Okay, I'm sorry. And being able to, fall on your sword now and then.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, I don't think I've brought up this topic before on the podcast, but you talked about your kids, taking them into the dealership after school. It's a big family thing. How do you guys talk with your kids? Do you, especially when you have maybe some difficult things you're having to talk through, do you try to keep that away from the kids? Or, they're still fairly young, but what are your thoughts about raising children while you're growing a business and kind of teaching them about what it means to run a business?
I think it's one of the biggest blessings we could ever give our children, is being able to be in that dealership with us and see their mom and dad working hard and leading a team, and them also getting to be a part of it. When we first took over, my son was 4, my daughter was 6, and my daughter to this day, she amazes me still, but she'll go and help out in the motor clothes department, and she talks to customers, she answers phones, she's an expert t-shirt folder. She
shows up at our weekly staff meetings in the summertime, and we start the staff meeting off, we open in a prayer, And then we do values and action. So our core values of teamwork, integrity, passion, and service, we open it up to the team and go, hey, is there anybody that deserves a shout out for values and action? And our little 10-year-old daughter will go, I'd like to recognize McKenna because she just did an incredible job helping this customer the other day. And she really showed a lot of passion and teamwork. And I'm just going,
yeah,
what? Like, wow. Like
that is so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing to see her just feel so comfortable in that environment and feeling like it's home, because it is. It's like, if we're not at home, they're either at school or they're at the shop with us. And so it really is a family run business, and every person in that dealership that works with us,
part of the extended family,
and they feel like Millie and Reese are their kids too. So, our kids, they've been immersed in it since day one. We try not to, we try not to have money conversations with them, or, things that are just beyond their understanding yet. But when it comes to leadership and hard work, we absolutely let them see it, and we encourage them to do it. They'll come up with business plans, or we'll even have like little interviews with them every once in a while if there's different things they want to do around the shop.
Yeah, our daughter, for several years during the Labor Day weekend, we host a huge, it's called the Four Corners Motorcycle Rally, and our daughter's been running a lemonade stand every weekend for the last 3 years now. And one night we got home and I needed change for the babysitter. And I'm like, all I've got is 100. Emily goes, oh, Dad, I've got change for that. And I said, what do you mean you have change for that? We went back. She had $400 that she had saved from running her lemonade stand. So we went and we opened up her first kid's savings account for her. And it's just been so neat to watch her, understand the value of earning $1. And with the lemonade stands, like, they have to pay rent. They have to donate 10% back to the church. She, on her own, picks a charity to donate all of her tips to. They have to pay for any help. They have to pay for the cost of goods. And, I want them to understand the cups cost money, the ice costs money, the lemonade mix costs money.
And whatever's left over, that's what you keep.
Yep.
So
there's your profit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We kind of run our house like a business too.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so awesome. Well, you've talked a little bit about this along the way, but I always like to ask, what do you guys do to keep the fun, friendship, and intimacy in your marriage?
Never stop dating your spouse. When you're running a business, a growing business, you've got 2 young kids, never stop dating your spouse. And, I hear myself saying that. And at the same time, I'm going, you need to ask her out on a date really quick. But, we do try to make time for one another. Obviously, with COVID, the whole last year it's been so crazy for everybody. But, Katie and I, we've done little book studies together. We've been trying to take walks together more often. We try, and we're not perfect, but to set aside 20 minutes of intentional time where there's no screens, no kids, where we can just talk about the day. And sometimes it's weird and it's a little awkward and clunky to get started. You're like sitting there going, okay. But all of a sudden you find yourself 20 minutes later and you're just, oh my gosh, and don't forget about this and that. So I just think that's important, and never stop dating her, never stop making her feel important. Just bring home flowers one day, just because, not because you're in trouble, not because you did something to upset her, but just because you love her, and the acts of service, and just understanding the other's love language. And, mine's physical touch. Surprise, surprise, right? Like, and so
99.9% of men.
I know, but she knows something as little as walking up to me and just kind of putting her hand on my back, or a couple extra seconds when she hugs me when I get home. Like, those things just have this incredible impact that I'm learning. Like, I desire that. I need that, where she needs acts of service and quality time. And so, understanding how the other one works and how you can talk to them in their own love language, I think is important.
Yeah. And I definitely, another way to keep the fun going and the intimacy is we flirt with each other all the time. I mean, like, especially at work. I mean, or I guess it could be supposed to be like inappropriate to do that at work, right? But we Like I'll lock eyes with him across the showroom floor and give him a little wink, and he just smiles and like we'll just go on about our day. But those little things, I think are really fun, is being able to, have fun in whatever atmosphere we're in. So
it amazes me, 12 years, I remember when we got engaged, and you always have the naysayers. Oh my gosh, like, your life's going to come to an end, and forget about any intimacy in your relationship after you get married. And I feel so sorry for people that experience that, because 12 years later, and it's not always easy. I mean, there's definitely ups and downs and challenges, but when you look overall in the last 12 years, I still just can't believe how much more I fall in love with this woman every day, like every day, even in the bad days. Like, it just blows my mind that I can continue to fall deeper and deeper in love with her, and on every level, every level, the spiritual level, growing in our faith, and, just as friends, the intimacy, all of it. Like, it's amazing.
That's so great. Catie, I was reading up on your Facebook post. I do a little checking around, just what's something that catches my eye, just to get to know people a little bit more before we do these interviews. And I found a really great quote, and I want to just close us out with this because I thought your words were so perfect. But it was a picture, you guys had been out on a ride, I guess, and you said, "You are my home and my adventure all at once." And I love that. I may be stealing that. I will credit it to Catie Bird, but I love it. So we'll just leave it there and wish you many more adventures. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Catie.
Thank you, Catie. It's a real blessing. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening through to the end, friends. Hey, before you go, can you think of someone else who is also on this journey that would benefit from hearing this episode? Sharing an episode and especially giving a rating and review really helps others find the podcast. So thank you in advance for doing that. If you have a question related to this episode or anything we've talked about in the past, you can email me at info@kathierushing.com. I'll be adding an option soon for you to leave a voice message on my website, and I'll share those comments or questions in upcoming episodes. You can always find a full transcript of this episode on my website, kathierushing.com. You're building a life together. Make it a great one. See you next time.